The cashless hell world we are all approaching in the future is coming, and we eventually will get there. And I thought we better look into this or have a look at it because it is ramping up, especially in Australia and the Netherlands, if nowhere else. And this has, of course, popped up as a major issue because of the sanctions against Russia, because of the the invasion of Ukraine. And as we start off here, this is a thing that popped up for a lot of people. So you can see Apple Pay and Google Pay no longer working on Moscow's metro system. Apparently, don't know, just saying that it's been reported.
Is that actual footage as well, or is that stock footage? It's quite hard to tell in these times. But
either way, it's completely believable, even
absolutely.
if it is not the case, right? So then the speculation has been made, and as you can see this person here saying, see why a cashless society is such an effed up idea. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you could all of a sudden have no ability to pay for things.
You can get deplatformed from trains.
Yes. Just, I can't go on trains or planes.
Deplatformed from buses.
Do you want to buy bread?
Deplatformed from taxis.
Not here so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go to the next one. We can also see an example of this in the West, because this is, of course, sanctions because of a war. But, of course, the West also does sanctions against its own people for political reasons.
Yep.
As we'll read through here. So how corporations can delete your existence. Laura was out in Leeds city centre buying some bits when her card was declined. Funny, she thought. She definitely wasn't in the red, but these things happen. So she left the shop, tinting crimson, and dashed towards the nearest cash point. But her card wouldn't work at that cash point either. She tried another one, with the same result. Laura opened the banking app on her phone. It said only error, then automatically closed. She finally abandoned her shopping and went to the nearest branch of Santander, a bank in the UK, for foreigners who don't know. There is a the counter assistant seemed just as mystified. After about an hour of waiting, though, Laura was called through into the manager's office. Quote, I'm going to read a statement out for you, the manager said, but I'm not going to be able to answer any of your questions after that. That's normal. He read out, quote, we have locked your bank account. We can't give you any more information. We might be in touch in future with more information, but we don't know when that might be. From Santander.
So basically, F you.
You have money? Too bad. Could she
Not
have...
yours anymore. It's ours.
Could she have any money? No. She couldn't even get her own money out. Just the whole thing is frozen. Do you want to buy shopping? You need to buy shopping for this week? Too bad. Not allowed. Frequently, Laura would phone up Santander's customer services. She'd be put on hold for ages, and then the phone would just go dead. She wrote to Santander to complain. They wrote back. They weren't interested in her complaints and wouldn't be taking it any further. Meanwhile, her rent, standing orders, and direct debits stacked up. The late fees and penalties mushroomed around them as life tumbled towards chaos. Nearly a month later, she received a letter from Santander. Quote, under the terms and conditions, we can withdraw banking facilities at any time, and in line with company policy, we won't go further into details. The account had been closed. Apparently, without irony, the balance had been appended as a check.
What?
Here's all your money in a check. Good luck cashing it.
Yeah.
Don't know where you're going to cash it. That's your problem, not ours. Here, have a worthless piece of paper. Laura could be any of us, but she is also Laura Towler. This is who this article is about. One of the founders of Patriotic Alternative. Towler is the sort of next-gen BNP type, a net-savvy white identitarian who campaigns against mass immigration and occasionally winks to her Telegram followers about you-know-who, they know all right, the Jews. So she's a white nationalist, anti-Semite, this kind of thing, right? And that's her crime. Therefore, she's not allowed a bank account in a Western nation, the United Kingdom.
So obviously, disavow those views completely.
As if that was a discussion.
Right. What's going on here is that she is essentially being deplatformed from money, and all of this is in response to no legal action, no actual action or behavior on her part necessarily, but simply because of a thought crime.
There is no reason you could not then turn off her power and water if you accept this.
Right, indeed.
In which case, is that human? Is that a human thing to do?
Why should she be allowed to get food then?
I don't know. Maybe we should build a camp which she could stay in instead. Then we could put all those people.
But it's the fact that just through discriminatory denial of service, just through cancelling people, they can, in a completely technologified world, they can just delete your entire ability to interact with the world.
Yeah. But also, where does this lead? I mean, okay, you can say white identitarianism bad. Yeah, I agree. And Nazism bad, all that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. You know why bad? Because it does this kind of thing to people and ends up killing them. en masse. And it's like, yeah, these are part of the reason we don't want to end up like those folks. Exactly. And in which case we should have some tolerance for political views.
What would someone like that have to lose if they have extreme views?
There's the other aspect.
They get deplatformed from money because of their extreme views. What have they got to lose? That they can't move, they can't leave, they can't use cash if we have a cashless society.
Best thing to do to an extremist is give them nothing to lose.
Right.
That won't go wrong.
Yeah.
That's not going to lead anywhere. And of course, this doesn't just happen to someone who you could say is an extremist here, of course. It also happens to political moderates. As you can see, the bad man. I love how a political moderate in our country we have to call the bad man. And he also has PayPal, as you can see in this article, closed on him. And also he has said in live streams that his banks have just closed in the same way. There's no more banking. Bye-bye. Enjoy.
Oh, and then the discussion here is, it's a private business. They can do what they want. And all of the private businesses decide to do exactly the same thing. The government,
at least it's not the government oppressing me. So,
right.
Okay. And if we go to the next one, you may be wondering, why on earth do I call the bad man a political moderate? It's because he took a political compass test and literally got that result. I don't know if it's low resolution, if people can see. It's literally 2 squares down, 1/2 a square to the right. That's it.
Did he film the video and the responses and everything?
Yeah, and that was his result. And it's just like, okay. Like, he has no real views. He seems to really have views on Islam and Islamification, and that's... Yeah. Like, that's as extreme as he gets. And even he ended up losing his bank, of course. And if we go to the next one, we can also see just people in mainstream parties. So, I mean, you've got here Laura Loomer, who's, you could say a bit wacky or whatever, if that's your opinion of her.
Who's Laura Loomer?
So she is a Republican. She was a candidate that ran for election. And in here, as you can see, Florida conservative firebrand Laura Loomer, 27, tells why she was banned from Twitter, PayPal, and Uber, and her bank account frozen for anti-Muslim hate speech, and dyed her hair blonde as she vies to become the youngest person in Congress. Now, again, you can disagree with what she said. It doesn't matter. This is not important. Their views. And then she has her bank account frozen. Can't access her money to pay for food.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm particularly black-pilled by this segment so far because... we are going to be the absolute first people on the block for this kind of thing. I'm just putting it out there. If you've been following our content, it's not extreme. We're not advocating for violence. We're not advocating hate against any personal group or anything like that. But we are questioning the narrative, which makes us dissidents by definition.
That's all it takes.
And dissidents are the first people to have this kind of treatment.
And if you are sat there and think, well, I don't care about these people, they're all, right-wingers or whatever, or you maybe think that, Laura Towler, she's a complete extremist, what do I care if she loses her bank account? It doesn't end. As you can see, it keeps marching. Yeah. And will eventually march here as well.
First they came for the white nationalists, then they came for the Freedom Convoy.
And as we have the Freedom Convoy as well. And you can see their Canadian Freedom Convoy having their bank accounts closed. They actually got theirs back in the end, apparently. Okay. Or at least the people who donated a whole 10 buckaroos.
But it was more the fact that they froze the bank accounts of people who donated.
Exactly.
There was no justification for that whatsoever.
How he was only going to do it with extremists. And now it's people who have donated 10 buckaroos to a protest for workers' rights. They're gone now. Okay, yeah, it's going to end there. It's not going to go any further than that.
It's really scary.
And there's always reasons for the arguments that you could say that we could not only get away with all this, but then have a cashless society in which you don't even have the ability to hold money anymore. Because this is the real scary combination. And as you can see, Boris Johnson making an argument here, as he did at COP26, in which he said, we've kept the 1.5 degrees commitment alive and have made huge promises on coal, cars, cash, and trees. Now, in this one, he was actually speaking of foreign aid in cash, but it's not unreasonable that people took this as him also saying that he's going to get rid of physical money. If we go to the next one, we can see plenty of articles on the exact topic of what if we just get rid of money. We'll be able to save on the ecological impact. Don't you know all the notes are plastic now? They don't degrade anymore. They can survive forever. We'd better get rid of them. And the reason is for this is seemingly unstoppable is the convenience of cashlessness, of course. The fact that, we are keep marching towards the fact, because when I go to the shops, I imagine you're the same, it is just easier to go dip rather than going around with your coins.
There's also the fact that
having your hands stink of pennies.
A lot of people cannot do arithmetic anymore.
There's also that as well. But of course, this also comes with measurable horrors in store for us. And if we go to the next one, we can see some of these as a man, Peter Sweden, who has lost his verified checkmark, which, again,
What?
normal. He's no longer Peter Sweden. He was. No more.
Yeah, and then I love it when leftists are like, guys, people complain about this verified checkmark. Like, it just shows that they've verified your identity. I mean, oh my God, come on, guys. Then you have it revoked. Okay, how does that work?
How does that make sense?
No, it's a badge of honor. It's like an armband in a sense.
Yeah. So you can see him giving an example. The year is 2031, a cashless society where all your money is stored in a digital wallet. Access to it is with a digital ID that is tied to a social credit score. Those with a low credit score get their accounts frozen by the state. Yeah, well, maybe I'm exaggerating. We'll go to the next one. Of course, we did a segment on exactly this because Majid Nawaz was warning us of exactly this. And he mentioned the Bank of England doing exactly this. So if we go to the next one, we can see more information on this. So you can see, there should be a Bank of England link in there, John, if you can load it up, which is on the Bank of England's website. They have said, well, everything that Majid said is true. And we are planning it.
And it's great.
And it's going to be great. Like, we're going to troll everything in your life. So this is the Central Banking Digital Currencies page. So in here, I don't know if you can scroll down. There should be a graphic, as you can see there, that graphic. Issued by the Bank of England, banknotes, digital money exists. What if we put them together? Central Banking Digital Currencies. Oof. Your money will be issued by the Bank of England and will be digital and controlled by the central bank. Not Santander anymore, or even be with the Bank of England, directly controlled by the state. No even intermediaries between there. Not the smaller banks are that free in these regards. Anyway, although they say in here, try to rest assured about the whole situation. Any central banking digital currency would be introduced alongside, rather than replacing, cash and bank deposits. Until it's not.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
Yeah.
Forever. No one buys that. Quote, we have not yet made a decision on whether to introduce central banking digital currencies. In March 2020, we published our discussion paper on central banking digital currencies, which outlines one possible approach to the design of our currencies and asks for feedback for the payments industry, academics, and other interested parties. That is the consultation where they came to the conclusion that they couldn't be trusted with something so powerful. And they literally said, I mean, we mentioned in the previous segment, I said we did, in which they just said, we don't understand or have the, can't have the responsibility to determine who gets access to the bank account. So we'll give it to the government. It's like, whoever runs the Bank of England has seemingly never read a book.
Yeah, who can we trust above all else to have our best interests in mind? I know, the government.
Imagine making a secret weapon, effectively. It's just like, this is so powerful, not even I, the person who's made it, should have it, so I'll give it to the state. That'll never go wrong. Absolute idiot. And if we go to the next link, we can see some of this cashless society moving forward. As well, it naturally will because of just the way society is.
Advancing relentlessly.
So this is hundreds of Dutch ATMs closed permanently. What does this mean? Well, less cash. For anyone looking to take out a little cash, it's likely that your usual ATM isn't there anymore. Nearly 900 ATMs were permanently closed last year. Some were relocated. The reason? People in the Netherlands are using less and less cash, and more banks are closing their branches.
Yeah, and I seem to remember with this. So they were saying that, so they have a total of 4,916 ATMs currently. So they've got rid of almost a sixth of the ATMs in 1 year.
1 year.
And then in 2.5 years, another report was saying that they got rid of a third of their ATMs in 2.5 years.
I imagine it's going to be accelerationist as well.
Yes.
Like, once you've only got a couple.
And this is the thing, right? The utility of cash is somewhat dependent on the availability of ATMs. If you don't have ATMs, are you really going to go to the bank all the time to get your cash withdrawals? And how long are banking branches going to last as well? That's another thing to mention.
As he says, those the banking branches are also just gone.
So
let's go there.
Yeah, so let's see. If we end up with no banking branches and no ATMs and no cash, then digital currency is
the only option.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of two. It's going to be Bitcoin, of course, or it'll be the central bank's digital currency. Which one do you think the government is going to promote? Which one do you think the government's going to try and ban? Have it a guess. Well, we'll have a look at the government, the one that really runs the country, the World Economic Forum. There's something to say on this about the benefits of a cashless society who are pushing this relentlessly. Yeah. So if we go to the next one, we'll see Right Said Fred decide to say something about this because, of course, and he says a cashless society is a war on the poor and another step towards total digitalization. Sounds like another one of those pesky conspiracy theories coming to fruition. And this is the same situation in Australia. And I imagine it's every country, frankly, this trend. So as you can see, the end of ATMs in Australia, thousands of cash machines are being removed across the country as banks go digital. So they say in here, analysis has revealed the closure of 460 bank branches in the nation in recent years, dating back to 2020, and approximately 3,800 ATMs have been removed in Australia in a single year. Just all gone. New South Wales alone now has 140 fewer in-store banks, and almost 300 suburbans don't have a single ATM to withdraw cash. It is a similar story in Victoria, where 120 branches have permanently closed their doors to customers. Quote, jobs are lost, business is impacted, and other local services
Is it me? Okay, I know I'm looking over the long view here, but as banks have basically monopolized, they've become bigger. Do you remember we used to have lots of small banking branches and building societies and things like that? But now we have big monopoly banks, and instead of providing a service, because they can just close all of their branches, and that's fine. So they don't actually have to provide that physical service anymore.
What do they actually do for their money at this point?
Right, they don't give you any money in interest payments, that's for sure.
No, and well, everything you do with them is now just click, and then it's all handled in the cloud. And it's like, okay, well, that's all automated.
Yeah, it's like they make money out of nothing.
Yeah,
in a way.
Well, even worse than they were before. But also, you could say from that statement there, jobs are lost from the closing of the bank branches and whatnot. And he said, well, you could argue that money is saved and the system is streamlined and all that, except that, well, that's kind of the problem. Another key factor for the branch closures and reduced ATMs is the fact that banks are bringing in a small fortune from daily digital transactions in Australia. As Australia accelerates towards a cashless society, fees from either the customer or the vendor for online banking have become commonplace, apparently. And you may wonder, I know the card payments here, cashless ones, they used to have like a card charge. What is it? If it's under a £5, you have to pay 10 pence or whatever.
Yeah.
Our government just got rid of that.
Good.
The vendor still has to pay it, just you don't, which doesn't really make any sense either, but whatever.
It still gets passed on to you, doesn't it?
Yeah. In a modern-day digital world, an estimated 80% of Aussies prefer to bank online, but the remaining 20%, namely the disabled or those who are not digital savvy, have been left behind.
Yeah. I mean, the real losers in this situation are boomers, old people, pensioners. Like, I mean, what the hell do you do when your whole life is based around when you solve problems, you go to a place and you speak to someone and you solve it? No, nowadays you have to you have to ring up a number, you have to speak to some automated machine which takes you round and round in circles like something out of Black Mirror. You can't get to a human to solve your problem for you. So you just end up having to get shafted by whoever it is that's screwing you over. It's really grim, really miserable.
You could make the argument that, times changed and we changed with the times, but and that seems to be what is the future in store for us. I don't know how they're actually going to stop this.
Yeah, I don't know how you keep cash alive at this point, because it seems like the decisions have already been made for a start, and the economic incentives are also unstoppable for this kind of change. So yeah, how do we stop this?
Well, there is, of course, a few responses we could say. So there is the funny response of like the Luddite position. If we just start smashing machines, so we
go around burning machines, building a pirate ATMs.
Yeah, we make cash just part of the Constitution.
Imagine you're in a car with like dark windows driving along a suburb at night, and it's got a special symbol on it. People go up, you open up the boot, and there's an ATM where they can.
I know Lambda would actually make this argument probably, which is just that we could as a nation just to say, right, we're banning cashless payments. Just in the United Kingdom, we don't have those. We won't, but you could do it and then be like, we only use physical money and return to monkey and all that. But it's, as you say, not going to happen. The other alternative, at least the one that presents itself, is, of course, digital currency, not regulated by the bank. So if you go to the next one, you can see a lot of memes being made in response to a lot of this situation. So the Federal Reserve also looking at doing this for Americans. You will own nothing and be happy. No, I won't. And Bitcoin absolutely destroying that vision for the future. And
it's one of the only things I feel standing in the way of this central bank digital currency thing. And I think there's going to be something of a massive political power struggle for the next 5-10 years between cryptocurrencies and centralized digital currencies.
But there's also the evident reality, because we have a war in Ukraine. We can test when the chips are down what the people do. And if we go to the next one, we can see an example. Cryptocurrency exchanges refuse Ukraine's request to freeze Russian accounts. So Russians who are having all their rubles disappear in their hands, thanks to the exchange rate and all that, well, they can just use cryptocurrency, and the cryptocurrency people, the people who run the institution and all the rest of it, don't care for your weird vision of the future where we can freeze accounts and all that. It's cryptocurrency. Go to hell. We can't even do many of these things that you think we can do, as they had that response a while back. as well. And if we go to the next one, we also have Ukraine, who themselves are taking absolutely advantage of crypto donations.
Yes.
As mentioned, they are taking donations in Ethereum and Bitcoin to fund their war effort because, well, that's actually valuable compared to the paper crap that is existing in the nation.
Well, it's also the fact that I think their central bank has been subject to relentless cyber warfare.
Sure.
So
there's that true. But it's just the fact that when the chips are down, in an example of a war next door, well, what's everyone doing? They're rushing to Bitcoin and Ethereum and so forth. So yeah, that's that. I suppose that's our future. I don't have a Bitcoin account. I need to set one up. I need to get a wallet. So be prepared. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as our interview with Andy No, this one being Tea Time with Andy No between Carl and Andy, of course. And if you want to follow Andy, you can always follow him on Getter at Mr. Andy No. Thank you and goodbye.